a great day. My name is Ericka Scott. I am the Executive Director at Life Changers, Inc. And with me is my lovely co-host, Sheila Hardy, CEO and founder of Because It's Personal, Inc. And you are listening to the Community Nonprofit Network Podcast, also known as the CNN Podcast, where your nonprofit shines. So, Sheila, who do we have with us today, and what are we discussing?
All right. Well, I tell you, we got an awesome person today. I call him Dr. J. At least I start calling him Dr. J, but his name is Dr. John Morgan. And Dr. John Morgan has this vision of the Cobb Hope Park, he's the executive director of the nonprofit charity organization that will relocate unsheltered homeless individuals. So, Dr. J, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Sheila.
Awesome. Well, tell us about this vision.
Well, Cobb Hope Park came about as a result of volunteering to help the homeless. Years ago, even while I was still working, I volunteered at Must in the old Elizabeth Inn, helping people try to find jobs. And I've worked with the Center for Family Resources. It was known then as Cobb Family Promise, I believe. No, Cobb Hope. I don't know. But anyway, I worked volunteered with them. I've been downtown partly too, volunteering with organizations there. And more recently, when I was about to retire, I became affiliated with the First United Methodist Church here in Marietta, and became a member, my wife, and we also actually have a leg in two churches. And she's gravitated more toward the St. Dunstan's Episcopal over just across the line in Fulton County. But they've participated in Family Promise. So through them, I've helped. I've volunteered a short time also helping those folks who happen to be homeless, also finding jobs and getting employed. But anyway, we started at the First Methodist after doing some career connections, helping folks there find work during the Great Recessions. And as they found work, I noticed some good work being done at the Good Samaritan outreach, and so I focused my attention there. And they still do Thursday mornings from 9 until 12. It was going beyond the 12 at that time. I go the last hour and tell them about helping find jobs, and I do resumes, and if anybody needs help with that, I do that. And also we have begun helping folks with reentry. Those are those who have records. I discovered Georgia Justice Project downtown, and they're doing great work at helping people get their records restricted and expunged. And it's helped some of our folks as well. Plus, we've started a bicycle ministry there for those who are on foot, which most homeless are, unless they're sleeping in their car, they still use it. So we have volunteers in the church that offer bicycles, and we pass those along to those who sign up and register. So it's a good, well, that tells about the church dimension, but I started noticing that many folks that came to the church had no place to sleep. They were sleeping in the woods, sleeping in their cars. And so I asked local police about that. They told me that Marietta police, and of course we're right in the center of Marietta. I followed through on that, asked them, yes, there are various camps out, and we would ask these homeless folks, can't they find shelter? Well, some of them can through MUST, some CFR, some if they have a substance abuse problem, they go to the extension. But early on, I found that many of them stay full. All of those stay full.
Yes.
And the demand is tremendous. And I learned about 211, the
United Way.
United Way helpline. Thank you.
Awesome.
And they said too often they would stay on hold because the demand was off, and they would use up all their free cell phone minutes just staying on hold, waiting so long. So I said, this is something. Anyway, that's how the vision for Cobb Hope Park developed. I began to explore lots of different online homeless programs, and one that drew my attention at first was Pinellas County, Florida, and I went down and visited. They had a Pinellas Hope Camp, it was called. And they had tents, I won't tell you the long story of how the church, the Catholic Church, the diocese created that little park, that little area for them. But they would have them invite the homeless. They created pairs in a homeless outreach program, HO abbreviated, where a policeman and a social worker, counselor would go out and invite the homeless to come to this camp.
Wow. And
there, if they would agree, they would have to, at that particular camp, I think the process is still the same. They would be admitted on the same day, Thursday, set up to clean everybody up and disinfect and turn in all their paraphernalia and be issued blankets and a tent space and all of that. But they would sign 8 to 10 pages of contracts agreeing to certain things. So anyway, and that was, they had a tremendous success. People would stay there from 30 to 90 days working on rehabilitation and doing whatever they needed to get counseling, work on job skills. Some had life skills, some had GEDs to get. So they had all of that in classes and whatnot for free. And of course the church provided that, but then gradually grants, and they had a board. I had pictures of 3 boards full of names. That program had been going 10 years after some skepticism. But anyway, and then they had a tremendous success rate. Well, anyway, I felt that's what Cobb should do. I also volunteered in point-in-time counts. The HUD would send out volunteers once a year to count the homeless in tents. And since I started, I think the first year was 2017 or 18, I've been several times. The count of homeless has remained about the same, between the 120, 130 homeless that lived out in the woods in tents and whatnot.
Now, is that just in Cobb, or is that Atlanta
Cobb.
Metro?
No, this was just Cobb. Yeah.
Just Cobb, that many, huh?
Yeah. I was living here in Cobb, and I kind of pull that to a close. That's been the consistent number that we've counted, but it's cold weather. We go out, and sometimes some of the last 2 years has been the coldest either late January, the last week in January, or first week in February, and we would, some of the people would be in warming shelters, so they wouldn't even be at the campsites. But regardless, we still found that many. But anyway, the continuum of care that's coordinated through Center for Family Resources and MUST. There are two people that take in homeless, can all go to those two spots and sign up for shelter, for housing. Let's see. I had the name of rapid rehousing and supportive permanent housing. Rapid rehousing. So, but because of the housing situation, they had to wait. They were on waiting lists, and depending on the urgency, they were rated. And so I found when they started, there were almost 300 on the waiting list, and now that has dwindled to they're doing a good job at finding less than 200. So some of those may be the same as in the point in time count. We haven't, but somewhere I use that somewhere the homeless who are living in the woods, maybe staying with folks, number between 100 and 300, something like that. So we're trying to refine that number all the time. Even now, MUST has expanded.
Yes.
And so has the extension, and Cobb Family Resources has found other shelters, but the number still stays in that range. More recently, I found and visited what I would call the ideal model for homeless program. This is called Haven for Hope in San Antonio. It's been in existence now about 10, 11 years. San Antonio was having a similar problem with Los Angeles and other big cities. Lots of encampments, homeless clustered around in town near the charities that were doling out assistance, food, or whatnot. So the county, Bexar County, and San Antonio official got together. What are we going to do? And they solicited the interest of one of the oil men. I can't remember. It used to be an off-brand oil company, but maybe I could think of it in a minute. But together with his funding, he dumped about 70 to 80 million into the pot, and the county and the city made up the other. So I understand to $101 million they had available to throw into this. They researched 200 of the best, what they thought were the best homeless programs throughout the country and even in Canada before they came up with a vision and developed a campus. It looks like a junior college campus with multiple buildings and all of this for the homeless. It's centered around restructuring. What's the term they use? I've got the map here. Transformation services. I don't know if you can. Well, the listeners can't see, but there's a huge multiplex building in the center of this campus called Transformational Services. And what they've done is all of the homeless are brought to this center, and they have a courtyard. The entrance area is a courtyard that will accommodate 700 cots, 700 people from all over the county and on it. Of course, it's more populous than Cobb is. But then the courtyard is fenced in. They have food, they have showers and all, and the homeless can stay. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any limit to staying there in the courtyard before they either make a choice to move up or to move out and go back to their homeless situations. They can come there voluntarily. The police have, San Antonio police have HO teams, homeless outreach teams, like I just described, who can bring the homeless there. Even the police who, find vagrants or whatever by the side of the road, sleeping on a park bench or whatever, can bring them there as well.
Awesome.
Now, while they're staying there in the courtyard, representatives from the nucleus program, transformational services and all, come to them and invite them to better their lives, to rehabilitate. If they agree, then they assign these same documents, typed documents, 8 pages, whatever, that they will contribute, keep their space clean, submit to a program of treatment if they need drug or alcohol treatment, counseling. They're each assigned a case manager who works out an individualized program of rehabilitation. So everyone is different, and their goals may be different. Anyway, so the point is there are all these resources there to help. If it's job training, language, whatever, counseling, it's all right there. And they can go from there to, and they've had tremendous success. That people who go into this agreed, over 90% go on and stay
Wow.
rehabilitated and are not returnees, so their recidivism is quite low. So I said that's the number. So that's a long way around to say Cobb is fortunate. We have such a location where 90% of these resources are located. And it's the place, and now part of this is a little confidential, as it were. I'm not sure.
We won't tell anybody.
Huh?
We won't tell anybody.
Won't tell anybody. Of course, it'll be on the blog here. I want to say it's in the heart of the county because we had some pushback. I established Cobb Hope Park as a vision for this place that we found in San Antonio and partially in Pinellas County. Pinellas County, by the way, I found out was modeled on this Haven for Hope in San Antonio. So it's kind of the granddaddy of it all.
Okay.
There is a place where I want to establish. It's an quote undeveloped spot in the center of the county where I want to create a park for pods because tents are not all weather here in Cobb. It gets too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer.
Right.
When you're down there by the beach year round, it works better in tents. But so I found this gentleman that makes metal pods. It's aluminum pods. They're permanent structures, and I've brought them here. He's demonstrated them, a prototype. He's shown them to the Cobb board. Of course, the board of commissioners has had some turnover since then, as well as the Marietta City Council. But we have some funding already for these pods, and also a gentleman who would create the park.
Wow.
Keep most of the better trees, and so we could actually call it a park, but create little gravel paths to each of the circles of the pods. We could put, say, 20 pods per circle, and say have 5 different circles scattered around. So at least 100 pods, and you could possibly put in more if the demand reaches that. But then they're within walking distance of the Cobb Community Service Board. It's now Highland Rivers has taken it over. They've merged.
Okay.
Which has a 24-hour counseling, walk in. You can go in and it's already been set up and being used. But, if you don't live near it, you've got to drive very few homeless get there because they're in different woods. That's my point, is to go out with homeless outreach teams, an officer and the social worker counselor, to go out and invite the homeless to come to this park. Now, if if they're ready to come and sign the documents, they would agree to keep the stuff clean, clean up
Right.
for living there, maintain the park. They would all have chores to do, which is part of their discipline. Keep their space clean. Submit to a caseworker. They would all have case management. So lay out their goals, work on them, go to class for whatever they needed. If it's a GED or if they need certain job skills, life skills. We would also help them maybe have representative from Georgia Justice Center come and talk about expungement for those who have some jail. It's a crying shame that so many homeless have some jail record, because just being homeless is against the law because you're living on somebody's land.
Right.
And one of the things I found out from police is that they all circulate, and if there's any call, some nearby resident is bound to say there's somebody out there causing trouble, come tell. Well,
Right.
The police will come and give them a trespassing notice.
Right.
If they don't leave within a week, you're probably familiar with this, then they're going to have to go. The only place then was to jail.
Mm.
And so if they leave, they move maybe some other place. Where are they going to go?
Right. Right.
So they're constantly susceptible to trespassing. And I've seen those trespassing notices, and constantly, for many of them, jail is a relief. It's a free lodging, food and drink, and, and bed, some place to stay. But
right.
The problem is that they're fingerprinted and they now have a record.
Yep.
And it's almost like a death knell trying to find a job, a decent job. So it's a catch-22. So anyway, that's one of the things that I'm trying to convince our whole community is, let's create some center, and we can work with MUS, we can work with CFR, as soon as they have a spot, somebody could be transferred from the park over there to continue the same process. But my contention is, if we let folks camp out, have these pods, they're right where they can get all the services they need.
Right.
So, and we already had, when we were first proposing this in 2018, we already had 2 double-wide trailers ready to be donated, 2 single trailers. The 2 double-wides one would be for a community gathering, a dining hall. And by the way, the fellow that was going to make the pods would donate a food truck, because that was the business he was in.
Oh, wow.
The hollowed out contents, and then we would fill it with whatever, utility or appliances we need, cooking, apparel.
Okay.
The other double wide would be at the front gate. The entry center would keep records and offices and cabinetry and all for storing items of the residents and things like that. Plus, at the far end of these would be showers, would be, one double line would be one of them for women, and the other would be showers for men. The two other trailers, one trailer would be for classrooms.
Okay.
Or having some of these classes that they would need. And at the end of that would be a washer dryer, would be, for folks to use. Then the last trailer would be for clothing donations.
Okay.
Clothing store and whatnot. And part of it would be a sorting area for donations where people front end they would donate there, then a sorting area, and then the end of it would be so we had it all worked out, and there was a medical center that was going from trailers to permanent in it was what county? I can't remember what county, but Jasper, Georgia.
Okay.
And we were already worked out. They were going to give us those trailers first come, first serve. So we were ready. We proposed this park, and we had a meeting with the council chairman's representative, Mike Murphy, and the Cobb county manager at the time, Rob Cosin, I can't remember his name. He was there for just a short time. And then two representatives from Cobb Hope Park. And we were this close. Everybody in that meeting agreed we can do this. The county would provide utilities, workers, so the utility costs would be minimal, a minimal lease because it would be on county land. I had my developer all ready to go. We have the funds for that for the first year. We needed to match donations for the first year operation. Let's see. Oh, and the county manager said, okay, all we need, let's go get an architectural rendering of the park. So we'll have a visual. I already had the map part laid out. Let's have an architectural rendering so everybody would know what we're talking about. So, and then we were to leave and sell. I was to get folks lined up to back it, and Murphy and to get the rendering, and the county manager, was to go and get the Marietta, because Marietta's property and several of the wards backed up to it across the street. Well, I went away on vacation, confident that we had a deal. I was all ready to go with a memo of understanding. But then I heard some flack. This leaked out, and that's why I was talking about some confidentiality in renewing this. It was leaked out that one of the council members was definitely opposed because he was building a new complex right across the street, housing complex.
Oh.
Medium income homes. And he hit the ceiling. He said, absolutely no way we can have he called it a homeless tent village across from.
Wow.
And was so by prejudice against what, didn't even care. And it just so distorted. He hit the papers, and we wasn't even there to respond to it. It just hit and got so much NIMBY against it. So we had to back off of it. And so the manager, young guy, and he's no longer manager. I don't know whether that persuaded him to take another different job. And he's in real estate, by the way.
Oh, wow.
He sent a letter, said, no, we can't do it if the city council is not going to be behind it. We only have one real opponent that I know of. So we have backed off, and that was 2018, 2019. I wrote a letter to the editor explaining the whole picture. And there's one more part to it that we've since added. I was approaching the sheriff, and I just sort of hinted at it and showed him a design of asking to use one of the buildings in their adult detention complex as a substance restoration center.
Wow.
And I'm going to stop there and not mention it any further, but I know what building, and he will know. We're still going to approach him. It's right there on that campus, right on the same street, down in the cross from where we want the park.
Okay.
I'm not mentioning specific names. I can show you privately where it is, the map and everything. And we know CDBG offers funding for projects like this. They have funded some abandoned fire stations. I know one down in South Cobb. They granted a community over $100,000 grant to refurbish this fire station for a community center.
Wow.
Yeah. So if we were to approach them for a grant, that would be one of the first steps for a substance abuse rehabilitation center. I know for homeless and for whatever, I know that would be favorable. And we could get 6-figure plus grant funds to refurbish that. And there's a building, I know it used to be a dormitory. It'll hold up to 200. You can make offices where counseling can occur, where people can live, so that the 30 to 40% of the homeless that the homeless outreach team, again, the officer and the social worker, counselor, they go out to the woods and find, these homeless, and they invite them to come. If the counselor finds some substance abuse, which a lot of them, I found that 30 to 40% have some, addiction, some whatever.
Right.
Then rather than go directly to the park, they could go to the restoration center to have more intense counseling.
Right.
And a program to dry out, to sober up.
Absolutely.
Before then, they can go to either the park, or who's to say they couldn't, if they're temperate enough, come to classes and maybe more slowly work on their own rehabilitation back into the workforce.
Right.
So, and let me tell you, the record of people submitting to these programs is tremendous. I told you 90% at Haven for Hope. Well, there's an officer down in Pinellas County has told me that the homeless folks he has gone out with he's been doing this now for years. He said his record is 100%. I
Really?
said, I'm skeptical. I don't believe that. He said, well, ultimately they do, because down there, I don't know whether we could implement this, maybe not right at first, but he uses a carrot and a stick approach. He says, if you will come and voluntarily, you can say yes or no, but if you will come, again, you sign these documents and commit to case management and get your life back together, we will take care of all those expenses and get you to the position where you have a job and have your own income and have your own housing and so on. Now, if you refuse, That's your choice. But keep in mind, we'll be coming back around, and that you're trespassing. You're breaking the law. And we'll come back around. We'll give you a second time and maybe a third time.
Right.
But if you say the third time, we're going to have to issue you a trespassing notice. And do you know, faced with that option, and also these guys and gals all have cell phones now. Some donated, some whatever.
Right.
And they hear about their buddies going on and improving their lives and get rehabilitated.
Right.
He says, between all of that, I've only had very few hardened. He said the one last guy that was a holdout, we came by a third, maybe even a fourth time. He said, no, I just can't do it. He said, okay. We gave you this trespassing. We're going to have to take you in because you're on such and such person's property. And they can't tolerate that. Okay. We're going to have to take you into the jug. So he said on the way, it was several miles, it got awfully quiet in the back seat, in the cage where he sat. And do you know, and this is actually what he told me, they heard him starting to kind of quiet, tears. And he said, officers, I am so tired of this. And I don't want to go to jail again. I'll give it a try. I'll give it a shot.
Wonderful.
Yes. And I believe that. I believe that every person who has reached adulthood, given the faculties that God gave him, now we have mentally ill, we have institutions, we have particular types of housing that will, help them along.
Right.
But for a person in their right mind and that have gotten sober, it's imperative upon them to take care of themselves. God gave them the brains, the arms, the whatever. And anybody who says they live as a homeless person is still dependent on somebody for something.
Right.
For food, for a place to stay, whatever. So, and also there's another element. There is plus a spiritual element that if folks will believe enough in this concept, that we hope to have some kind of religious services in the park, voluntary, and we'll take stock of whoever's there. We'll try to get a vicar for a Catholic or for an Episcopalian or a pastor for the Lutheran, for our pastor preacher for evangelical folks, rabbi for Jewish folks, imam for someone who is, of Islamic descent, to reach out to a spiritual power. Or if we hope to get the Faith Partnership churches behind this, and because we called it faith, it would be an interdenominational outreach to back this program.
Right.
And so they could help us supply, and then maybe change and rotate ministers, pastors, imams, whatever, rabbis.
Right.
And maybe have different, park. You can set up, you can do worship in any pocket park. And any several groups have that. But, and I would hope that we might have, if we have a double wide meeting, trailer, we could have discussions, faith discussions.
Right.
AA is very spiritually based, as the 12-step program.
Right. So you bring the Celebrate Recovery, the faith-based.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of this to try to reestablish, to get feet on the ground, reestablish disciplines, faith, connections, job, all these connections, workout, record, expungement, all this to try to clean up the lives. That's my hope. And that's sort of the figure, the image of Cobb Hope Park.
Wonderful. That's
Thank
awesome.
you for being so patient. That's
No, that's fine.
Times I've been able to sell the whole picture and not put people to sleep.
Well, no, the whole goal is to put your idea, is to shine the spotlight on you, to put your idea out there, because there are other people in different stages, but along the same path with the same goal and mission and vision that you have, that may want to connect with you, or, and reach out. Hey, we have this piece in already going on, can we click up together? But, have you you named a few agencies and organizations. Have you connected with any, maybe other startup nonprofits who are trying to do the same thing?
Yes, there are a number who try to do the same, but of course everyone stops short of housing. That has especially, and that's one thing that has put me back on my haunches, as they would say, to try to figure out how to deal with COVID.
Right.
Because these folks tend to be susceptible. But I look on the bright side in that possibly with independent pods would be the best location, rather than housing them all together in a dormitory.
Right.
Now, I know their new expansion, they have to, and I haven't specifically asked. I don't know if you've been through their new center, their Hope Center.
No.
It's beautiful, and it's and
I heard.
Yeah, you need to do that. And I one of the questions I did not ask them is about how they deal with COVID and who, if they find someone that tests positive. My guess is they don't admit them.
Okay.
Because they're very, in some ways, strict and even rigid. They'll not let anybody that has a substance problem, they'll not admit that. They only stay for a short time, and even that stay is based on they're looking for work, they're looking for jobs. I think a week or two. I think they're able to renew up to 30 days, but I've received a number of people who have been through their program and that still are homeless, but didn't have enough time or contacts, whatever, to find a job. So they were pitched that they came to the end of their stay at MUS. So, and I know each organization has certain restrictions.
Right.
So this concept, I hope to encounter everybody, that there would be a place, a shelter for everybody, and if their problem is mental illness, the homeless outreach team would find a place for them to go, if not Cobb Hope Park or the temperance shelter. But between those two, we would be able to, I would say, accommodate 95% of the left outs.
Oh, wow. That's a lot, though. That's a big deal. That's, Sheila and I both have independently with her nonprofit and my nonprofit have, thought about and tried to plan transitional housing because, like you say, that is, a great idea. I have, pondered the traditional route with that group housing situation, like more of a dorm style. Yeah. But Sheila, you want to talk about the tiny houses and the co-housing that you?
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, I know. When I had first encountered John, when he said tiny houses, my ears perked up because it was like, okay, he has some of the ideas. And we have to understand that a lot of us nonprofit people have the same ideas.
Right.
It may just be different in how we do it, but it's the same idea. The bottom line of what we have together concerning the common ground is we need housing. Bottom line.
Right.
So once we come together and focus just on that, oh my goodness, what we could do. And so there's different, like, John was saying, there's different people that we need to work with. Some people with mental illness. Some people just tired.
Yeah.
It's not a mental illness. They're just tired. And so when you're dealing with a system that, if you think about it now, I know people are in the system, but when you're dealing with a system that is not passionate like some of us that have these nonprofit organizations, they're not passionate about that, that's a problem. And when one monkey stops the show, that's a problem. And so with that being said, once we come, and this is me, once we come together, unified, there's nothing that we cannot do.
Right.
So with that being said, with what John was talking about with the tiny homes, and when I first came in contact with John, there are so many different types of tiny homes, so many different types of villages, blah, blah, blah. And one thing about it is, if we can understand that once we're doing this, it's not just getting the money and saying, give me, give me, give me, but it's more of, okay, let's put in to these people so they can also be able to help when it comes down to, once they're finished, they can also, what I'm trying to say is, they can also work with the nonprofits or whatever to help.
Sort of.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Pay it forward.
Yeah, pay it forward. Yeah, I'm just not there yet. But anyway, to pay it forward. So, the word that I'm actually looking for is investing in one another. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for investing. And so I think John has an awesome vision, and it needs to be implemented. It needs to start doing what it needs to do. And that's why our listeners, you out there, you know what John wants. You know what he said about the vision, and it needs to happen. So, one thing about it is I didn't get a chance to say, the subject of what we're talking about. And one thing about it is, when I met John, he talks about his age. And so one thing about it is, he is very young-minded. And even though his body isn't, his mind is. And, the subject, because I didn't get a chance to say it, is you're never too old to impact the world. And that's what he's doing right now. He's impacting the world. And there are too many of us that are, about to go into, in the senior citizen area. And so we still got a lot to do. And John, like I said, he's ready to go. Right. And he needs some help. He needs some help, everyone. He needs some help. And so once we help him, because we're going to help him too. Ericka and I, we're going to help him. He needs that help. So, John, are you ready for that help?
Sure.
John, do you have volunteers?
Well, let's say I did. Everything is BC, before COVID.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
I had a bunch of folks that were supportive of the idea. And if I got reestablished and that's kind of, I'm at the beginning of doing that, invigorating this image and this inertia that we had up to before it kind of the NIMBYites shut it down, and then we had COVID. But two things that you mentioned, I wanted to tag on to that, and then we'll continue with this string. Trauma is the thing that we've been dancing around, Ericka. These folks have endured trauma.
Yes.
Some of them, most or all of their lives, at least while they've been homeless. I had one person that came to the church, and I handed him an application for a resume, and I put it before him, and he just kind of looked at it, and he didn't even do anything, and I saw him there just sort of staring at it. I went over to him, "Is everything okay?" He said, "Yeah." "Well, what, can you just tell me what job you had last?" He said, The only thing I could get out of him was evicted. He was so crushed. He'd been fighting eviction and been homeless.
Wow.
And that was probably the most extreme case of being stunned by trauma. So, and that holdout person that I said down in Pinellas County was the last holdout until finally they put him in the car and he broke down in the back and said he was willing to give it a try. Folks like that have been so traumatized,
yes,
level after level, told no, told lies,
yes,
told whatever. And so that's the reason they say, "No, I don't want anything. Don't get me, leave me alone."
Right. They don't want to get their hopes up to be disappointed again.
That's absolutely right.
Right.
And the other thing you mentioned was tiny homes. Do you know Paul Kirby?
No.
He is the guy who, I was trying to think of his last name, and boom, just before I said it, it popped up. Every now and then this old thing will go to work. He is the inventor of tiny homes, at least in this area, construction man. And he was a member of the church. I don't know if you've seen those in Kennesaw, the well-known tiny home village.
No.
It's a bridge church, Bridgeport, bridge. Bridge is I'll think of it in a minute. Their church had a piece of property, just some land, and they wanted to help out, do something with a mission enterprise. And so he spoke up as being a developer, contractor, said, "Why don't we do something to create a homeless house?" He was thinking in terms of one. And the more they started, it began to, let's develop tiny homes. And do you know, it grew. The congregation supported it. They worked with Kennesaw City through their, the codes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They worked with Kennesaw so they were able to bypass their codes because it was on church property. So they were allowed.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was some of the hoops you have to go through in the county even. But anyway, they developed 9 tiny homes on this property. Plus they had a community center and a storage area for all the, because the houses are so small, you can't store everything. But they had little storage bins for each person, 9 of them. And they had this community center for people to have come in and out activities in their children. It's beautiful. I've got photos. I've seen it. I've been all through it. They finished it now. And it was particularly for women trafficked in sex trafficking who were rescued down in Atlanta. So that once they went through a 30 to 90 day process transition, then they could come up and with a job and with a car and even participate in the community, the schools, and live in these tiny homes for a year, 2 year, 3, or whatever, and they work out contractually. They would pay some, but not the full tab. Some of their grants would help cut. But anyway, it's possible in Cobb Hope Park that we could have, along with the pods, maybe longer term, tiny homes built along one side of the park, and even build them on sliders so that they are not permanent,
Okay.
with permanent foundations. One of the key things about the park in this vision that I've added is that it's not necessarily permanent. In other words, I fully intend to work ourselves out of a job.
Yes.
That hopefully the homeless thing will become a thing of the past.
Awesome.
That these folks, and will rotate enough, people out, and then also we've motivated the county. The county has a housing guru, I guess Courtney Knight, who is, he's fixed with affordable housing. That's his main goal.
Okay.
In Cobb. So, and I'm partial on part of that committee because that's important too, is the next phase from Cobb Hope Park, is somebody can get into an affordable house. Well, they're not many. They're not hardly any.
Right.
So we need to fix that. So, but anyway, if we do our jobs, then maybe this, particularly since we have MUS, we have CFR already doing their going concerns, we might not need this park anymore. Then it would revert to a park. We could remove the pods, sell them there. They're good for fishermen, hunters, and whatnot. And the tiny homes could be moved if they're on like sliders. There's an organization that builds tiny houses. What do you call these? Pallets. It's a pallet community. They build pallet homes. It's tiny homes under a different description name.
Gotcha.
I'm aware of that organization. So they've built pallet communities on these sliders that sit on the ground. It just is enough to raise the house off the ground.
Right. In case of rain or something like that.
Right.
You probably can donate them to somewhere else because although the homeless, the ideal end scenario would be all of the homeless, homelessness to be completely wiped out here in Cobb.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are too many communities that are still struggling with that.
Yeah. Well, I envision if we could get this right and successful, it could become a model as well for other communities.
Yes.
Because the thing is, probably, Jesus said, "The poor you always have with you."
Yes.
And when there are people that lose a job, they get evicted, they go, get absorbed in strong substance abuse and stuff. Unfortunately, it's going to be an ongoing, but at least we can whittle it down to where the existing long-term institutions could maybe handle all or most of them, MUS and CFR and whatnot.
I am excited to hear not the location, because we know that's top secret, but about the collaboration with the sheriff's office, Sheriff Owens, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard?
He doesn't officially know about this yet, too. I've hinted to him.
He doesn't know about it yet.
Yeah, and I've hinted to him a little design blueprint for what this temperance shelter might look like, and come where even the source, where it might, and the CDBG fund. But I don't know, he's so new, and I don't know if this was in his first year. So
right.
I'm going to go back to him and make a formal.
This is what I want to ask you. Are you familiar with the RISE program that started in Chicago, where they actually turned Cook County Jail, part of it, into like a boarding house?
Wow.
Yeah, you talk about it, it's phenomenal. I'll have to send you the
they
video.
Did something like that in Florida, Pinellas County. I don't know whether one is related to or connected with the other, but seems like I may have heard of that but pretend I don't know. So I'd like to learn.
Yeah, this isn't a promo for Rise, but it's just an awesome idea. Of course, I had to tell Sheila first before the video credits even ran. But long story short, they turned part of Cook County, which is one of the largest, I think it's the second largest jail in the U.S. after Rikers Island in L.A. County.
Wow.
And what they did was they turned part of it into like a boarding house. So if you're on good behavior and you're in the Rise program, you are in classes, as you were speaking of, and you are taking you're in computer, not just training, but computer classes, where the actual computer schools come in. They have a whole computer lab that the detainees, the inmates attend, and they actually have a graduation. They had tractor trailers, I believe 2 full 53-foot tractor trailers pull up with suits, men's suits for the graduates. And they also have an in-house job fair where these guys are coming out earning $60, $70, $80, $90,000 a year.
Wow.
You talking now? I don't think you know, but my hashtag, if you go on LinkedIn, hashtag each one, teach one, reach one. I said, if that is not, the stepping stone, for success, of course you still have to deal with the trauma. So we're still going to need you and Sheila, people who handle that behavioral part of it. But that there, oh my gosh, they'll have me in tears. I mean, it really had me in tears. I'm like, we need that here.
The thing of it is, if you think about it, God has already given us the idea of what works.
Yes.
We just have to come together, and I will stress this again and again. We have to unify. We have to come together and do this. And once we start doing this, it's going to impact everybody because we're all connected.
Right. Right.
So with that being said, this has been an awesome, I'm telling you, and I'm going to say another one, awesome talk concerning about, what you want to do, John, and, it's where it's going to happen. It just was delayed. That's all. It's just a delay.
It's all in God's timing.
It's going to happen. It's a delay. That's all it is.
I'm encouraged because of the shift in emphasis in the county authority, and particularly in the sheriff's office and even in the police department, shifting from punishment to rehabilitation.
Right.
And what's the term they use in jail? Oh golly, I can't think of it. Oh wow, I'll think of it in a minute. The general term is rehabilitation, but those who have already been jailed.
You're talking about
diversion. Jail diversion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Some of those are homeless. Some of our jail diversion programs. The thing is, what I'd like to shift and what places like Must and like Cobb Hope Park is shift from a reaction to those that are already in trouble in crime to a proaction.
Right.
To go out to the homeless and all where crime is apt to take place, and in some cases minor has already taken, but before they get in real trouble.
Right. Well, we got to go to the schools for that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, we have a segment, real quick, of what would you do? So with that being said, what advice would you give to today's teenagers?
Oh, teenagers that are in school?
From 13 to 19.
13 to 19 that have, just their normal lives, or that have kind of tampered with trouble and.
Just any child, any teenager, doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can say like an at-risk youth.
What would you do concerning just what would you want to give to anyone that's from that age, from 13 to 19? What would you tell them?
Well, pay attention to, authorities rules. As you are growing up, and you want to get out on your own, do away with, some of the constrictions you've had by being at home, channel those now while you're in grade school and living with your parents into acceptable channels. You can be creative in the arts or in sports. Give it all you've got, in sports, and overproduce, as it were. When somebody gives, not go just a mile, but maybe go a mile and a half or whatever.
Yes.
Do a job better. Put that, and maintain a spiritual connection. Find some heroes that are doing good, that are improving mankind, improving heroes. I'll tell you, one thing that was very important for me. I went to Sunday school. Of course, I was chasing girls. I was into my hormones in my youth, and there was the church had girls. And they had some good fellowship activities. I like to be with groups. Find groups and identify with groups that are into wholesome activities. And of course, I think of church. And one of the things, my spiritual heroes, I had a Sunday school teacher who could make Samson and David and Elijah just bigger than life. They were heroes. They were champions.
Right.
And I wanted to be one. I wanted to be like that. That has stayed with me. Be careful of people who want to, take a little here or lie a little here, because a little lie becomes a big lie.
Yes.
Becomes a crime, becomes stealing, becomes, So be up and up, and be proud of who you are so that you can be truthful.
Right.
And be honest.
Very
so
good.
You can be proud of where you are, who you are, and who you've come from. And it doesn't matter your circumstances, even if your mama and daddy may have, left the scene and you're on your own. There's somebody who looks up to you. So provide a good path for them.
Right. Ooh-wee. Wow.
All right. That was awesome. But, one thing I want to ask you, and then I'm going to give it to Ericka, is that, because of your vision, we know that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And, would you mind having those 13-year-old to 19-year-olds working in your vision?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Remember you said that.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I may not have the patience of Job. I recently visited my son and grandson, son and daughter and grandson, and boy, when they called us to set this up, they sounded tired. And after I was spending some time with them, he's barely 1 year old, and man, it just keeping up with him just tired us out. I'm glad we could come home after 3 days. But I am eternally optimistic about today's youth, and I want to give them all the opportunity in a perfect world. I'm so frightened by all the fires and the wars in Ukraine and the division, the vitriol in our politics. I hate that. And I just, again, I want to protect them and they're going to be out there in the social media. They're going to have to deal with that.
Right.
But I still think I'm old fashioned, that their faith gives them some good basic foundation to deal with, and to morals to stay with, whether whichever faith they come from. Of course, I'm a Christian. I believe strongest in that and advocate that. But
right. Well, and it's we need programs, like I said, starting in the schools because we all know peer pressure, since even before your time, John, peer pressure was always the number one, influence over kids, lives. Right. So yeah, you can have a faith-based home, but, if it's not in the schools and everyone, even, because even back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, strong Christian homes, those kids get together. That conversation goes from Bible study, what they talked about in Bible study and the devotionals the parents had the night before, to, things of not such a clean nature. But now with schools wanting to move further and further away from, certain activities, especially, don't mention religion or Christ or God or anything, we really need to figure out how to get that back into the school, but also back in the homes. Personally, and I'll say this and I'll leave it alone, I just feel that society has corrupted our households to the point where, like you said, there's a lot of division, but they're also making it to where parents have to work so hard, even when there are two in the house, that just to make ends meet, little Johnny, little Sarah, how's that? Little Sarah, now, I grew up a latchkey kid, but, these kids are pretty much raising themselves. They have a roof over their head, they have clothes on their back, and lunch money, yes, but they don't have that guidance and direction. And you work a job, 2 jobs, and you come home, and honestly, it's like, I love you, but I'm done. I'm pooped. So, it's sad that our society has gone to that point where parents just don't have, they have to work that much just to maintain the same standard of living from 5-10 years ago. So, I digress.
Well, with that being said, John, we got to have you back.
Yes.
Because there is so much more that I know that you can give us information, and of course, getting that vision going.
Yeah, I want to hear the progress as it, share the progress with our listeners.
Right. And so we want to get it out there, because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. We want to leave everyone with is this: I don't chase, I attract.
Wow. I love it. I love it.
Wow.
So get ready, John, get ready. Because you're not chasing, you're attracting.
Yep. Thank you for listening. Again, this is the Community Nonprofit Network Podcast, aka the CNN Podcast. To reach out to us, you can visit our website at www.thecnnpodcast.com. And please, if you're interested in advertising with us, we'd love to hear from you. Again, visit our website and click the Advertise tab. Till next time, as always, be awesome and be blessed.